Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar presentation and demo on how to quickly add a portal to your CE/CDS environment. We're certainly glad you're here with us today. This presentation should run for about 30 minutes and then will be available on our website for your reference. Today's presenter is Tyler Page, a solution architect here at MCA Connect, and I will hand it off to him to begin this presentation.
All right, thanks, Brittany. So I've got a few slides here that I'll cover very briefly and then spend most of the time doing a quick demo. But a lot of things have changed in the portal the last 6 months or so as they moved it from kind of the old portal that you've seen or have probably seen demos of to Power Apps. So just like CRM, CE, everything is being consumed by Power Apps, so is the portal. The thing I want to point out, though, is it's the same portal infrastructure that's been around since 2015 when Microsoft bought ADX. So, it's not net new, nothing to really be afraid of. There's some new features that came with the Power Apps merge, but other than that, the portal and the way it's structured and things like that have been around for quite some time. So let's go through the slides quickly. So a common question that I get a lot is why use a portal at all? Because it's just showing your CRM or customer engagement data to, that you can already see internally. So the main reason is that audience changes. So it goes from internal people to, and you actually want to interact or show some data to an external audience. So could be customers, as part of support or sales process, but basically you need the customer to interact with data on some level. Maybe it's just the fact that you want customers to maintain their own profiles of some sort. Could be an address or phone number, email address, things like that. Or could start your sales process. A lot of times people just put up a lead page, all right, into your first name, last name, email address, and that goes and creates a lead for you. Things like that. Another customer support is another common template because, if you don't already have one, it's quick and easy to spin up kind of a case management page, show some KBs, maybe show previous cases that they've logged, and tie everything together with either forums or community feedback. But basically giving customers access to support information or even product information 24/7 so they don't have to call you every time they have a question. So some common use cases there. And then when working with customers, we get into the process of, well, spinning one up used to be kind of confusing. Sometimes it would fail, things like that. So this is kind of what I mentioned earlier. It's much easier now that that's in Power Apps, and I'll actually go through that in a demo. And then I get the question a lot, well, there's just a lot of pieces here, and it's not what I'm used to as far as the forms that I'm used to, the CDS forms and CE forms. And there's just too much going on with web pages and lists and forms and all this other things. So the terminology is quite different. In this demo, I want to focus on just the basics to get a portal going. I'm not covering everything by any means, but I just want to show that it's actually not too hard to get some basic pages up and running and then start digging in deeper. I put this slide together because I like to show, hey, if you think of an entity form, you should be used to forms already. You've already built forms in CE or CDS, and I have a little screenshot there of the old designer or the new one, whichever one you like better. But it's the same. You build a form and then you show it on a web page. And then the entity list is kind of the same concept as a view in CDS, and that you create a view that you want to use. Could be a list of customers or a list of cases. And then you show that on an entity list, and then you tie that to a web page. And so the basic components that we're used to, now we just create an entity form or entity list and show those on a web page. So very easy to get the basics up and going. And then, of course, hey, it can't be that easy. So you're right, there's a lot more to actually finishing out your portal and getting it ready to go live. Most important concept after showing the data and the web pages and on your portal is to talk about permission. So there's several things that go into permissions. There's entity permissions, and that combines web roles with what users can actually do with those records, what they can see, update, basically full CRUD if you allow it. And then you have certain metadata you want to add on to control where they can create records or save records and do different things like that. So there's other things that layer on top of your pages that you'll want to consider, especially security. And we won't go into all of this today, but again, we'll stick to the basics. All right, so I actually want to show a demo instead of some slides here. So let's walk through the basics of, I'm just going to create a new portal, and then let's talk about some pages. We'll create a couple of sample pages and then show those on how that process goes in the new Power Apps portals. So this is a trial environment I just spun up, and I just went to the Power Apps homepage here, make.powerapps.com. And then so you see this is where you'd go anytime you want to build a Power App, either Canvas app, model-driven app. And now you'll see this new button for Portal from Blink. So now it's part of Power Apps. It's just another type of app. So our Canvas apps are really your mobile-first type of app, catered to mobile devices, tablets, phones. Model-driven app is our CE or CDS apps. So what we've always done in a customer engagement world. And then Portals, of course, your app for external customers, web-based. So I can click this and just spin up a blank portal. And that's what they call a custom portal template. And just start from scratch and build your own. Or there's, just like there's for other Power Apps, there's templates. So if I go to all templates here, you'll see there's different types of portals: community portal, customer self-service, partner portal. And so you can start with a template, and all it is, it gives you some sample pages that you can then go in and start changing or tweaking. But it might save you some time if you know you're doing, hey, self-service portal of some sort with cases. Then start with that template, save some time. A partner portal, or just community, and you want to use the forums and community feedback things, and then start with that template. For the demo, I'll just do a portal from blank. So we can see one spin up. Oh, my trial can only have one. Okay, we'll deal with the one I already have. So the reason I spun up a portal ahead of time was because it does install 10 or 15 different solutions in your environment. So it does take somewhere between 15, 20 minutes up to 2 hours the first time you do it. So when you go in there and click the create from blank, you'll give it a URL, and then you'll save it, and it'll start installing all the solutions. So those will get installed, and then you'll end up with, I named it demo 1, but you'll end up with a new app in your list with a type of portal. And then once it's, it'll be grayed out while it's spinning up, and then once it's finished, it'll be just like any other app you can interact with. So I can click here, I can edit it, I can browse and look at the web page. That's the first thing I generally do to make sure it's up and running. So it should be, here's the URL I gave my demo portal here, abcworld1.powerappsportals.com. And so I know I've got, all right, my portal's up and running. I've got a few of the sample pages that came with it. And I just picked the custom template, so I don't have much here. So it looks like a lead contact us page, and then just some sample pages here. So outside of installing the solutions, then the solutions can take, as I said, 15 minutes to a couple of hours. From that point on, if you're not in a trial like I am, you could spin up as many portals as you need to, and they should take really a matter of 5 to 10 minutes. They'll be quick once all the solutions are already there. All right, so let's talk about the basics of getting this up and running. So I've got this custom portal. I don't have any data there yet, but I know I have data in my CDS instance. Let's open that up so we have it. And here's, I mentioned earlier that we get some new features since it was consumed by Power Apps. So if I edit this here, this is a nice designer that they came out with, which makes it a lot easier for non-web experts to start editing the portal. And so, see, I can see the portal here and what it looks like, but I can also edit here. So as things light up, I can click in those cells, start editing it, change the text. I don't like custom portal in here, so we can start getting rid of that. And we can actually start changing the style of this page. And then on the left, they give us, show our pages and page structure, portal components. So I can start splitting my columns or sections into 2 columns, 3 columns. I can actually insert images, things like that. So it actually becomes really easy without having to know HTML to start editing your page. And it's as easy as clicking where you want it and then clicking image, for example. And then you can upload an image on the right. And it starts populating. Of course, it can pull your image in. So this designer is new, and it's one of the excellent benefits we get from Power Apps. And I'm sure they'll keep enhancing this to where we can do even more with it. This makes it very easy to start editing things and seeing how it looks as soon as you start editing it. But let's go and create some new pages. So when it installs all the solutions, you'll get a new app called Portals. I generally like to work in that because it's fast, a lot faster than kind of the old UI that if you're used to that. But it also keeps everything in here that I need for Portals only. So on the left side here, you see my website info, site settings, things like that. What I'm going to focus on today is entity forms, entity list, and of course our web pages. So as I mentioned before, you need a form in CE or CDS that you want to show in the portal. And then you generally need a list of records, right? You want a customer to come here, hit a certain page, probably see a list of cases or contacts. We can do cases as an example. And then they can pick the case they want to work with, or they can create a new one. So we'll put that up here so we can see it. So let's start working with cases here. So first I need an entity list to show me a list of cases. Let's create one of those as an example. Naming is important on these because you might end up with 3 or 4 different types of case lists. So name them to where you will know what they are. Let's go to case. And then the website you want to link it to. I only have one, and that was spun up for me when I created the portal. And then what views do we want to show to our external audience here? So is this just active, all cases? Let's do active. And actually, let's create a couple and they can choose. And let's look at closed, resolved cases. And I don't have to worry about security here yet. So basically, I don't want to limit this. I just want to show active and resolved. And then the cases that show up there will be controlled by what's called entity permissions, which we're not going to go in depth on today. That's how I would actually secure the data to the person logging into the portal. I'm going to leave it off for now just so we can see more data. That's very important to turn on at some point, otherwise you're exposing all of your data to anyone that logs in. So we have a list, and then when someone interacts with this list, they're going to be clicking on a case. So we need to have some forms for them to work on. So now we go to the entity forms. And let's create a couple of forms for cases. Let's find case again. And so this is actually selecting one of the forms in our CDS already. So this is, like I mentioned at the beginning, generally you'll create your own list or views, and you'll create your own forms, and then you'll just show them here. I'll use the out-of-the-box one just for now in the essence of time, but I think most people watching this probably know how to create a form. I do always recommend creating your own forms for the portal, because even if you think you have one great form that'll work for both, you'll always find one field that you don't want the customer to see or whoever's logging into your portal. and so you'll need to create a separate form anyway. So generally I just do it from the beginning, create a portal form, and then I can change it however I need to, whether it be different fields I want to show, the layout was probably different for a website, or even the required fields that we need to require on the website. If I only want to show a tab, I can do that. For this example, we'll just leave it and show the whole form. And then the mode is important. So I called this the case edit form. So I'm going to use this when someone tries to open a case and edit it. And then how are we going to know which record they're trying to edit? We'll just leave it a query string and it'll pull the ID. So that means when they click on the record in the list view, it'll pass the ID along and show them the edit form. And again, we need to link it to a website so it knows where to show. And entity permissions is also important here because we'll secure this form and only allow people to edit it that have edit permissions. So we need to come back and turn that on. I'm going to leave it off for now so that we can make sure we can see this form and interact with it. And then generally speaking, you probably want a form that they can create a case if you're going to allow creates. So let's do another case. And a lot of times it'll be maybe a separate form for create because you want only a few fields, but we'll leave the out of the box form for now. Save that. Okay, so we have an entity list to show a list of cases, and then an edit form, a create form. So the basics are done. Now I just need to show those on a web page somewhere. So here's all the pages that came out of the box. I see all these content pages, child pages. Those are basically sample pages for us to use. Let's create a new one. The name of the page is also important because, again, you might end up with several pages that deal with cases. So make sure you title them to where you know what they are doing. Case list, case edit, etc. Link them to the web page or website that you want them to show up on. And the parent page is important. This helps with your breadcrumbs and your page structure. So for now, we'll use everything would just be printed by the home page. And then a partial URL. So this will append to the end of the URL. And then what template? This controls the style and layout of the page. So we'll stick to the out of the box ones yet. We won't deal with custom pages or templates right now. Let's just do full page. And then the publishing state is published. And then what do we want to show here? So this is my case list. So I want to show a list of cases on this web page. Okay, so we'll save that. And since it's published, and I've filled out all the things I have to fill out, as soon as I save it, it will start sending that data to the portal and create a new page for me. You can always test that by going to your partial URL if you want, because I haven't added it to any navigation yet. And I could just do a / case list and see if anything shows up yet. It's probably still creating the page. I'll give it a minute. And while we're working on, while that's updating, let's go and create another web page. To show the other forms that we're working with here. So when they open up that case, what do I want to show them? We'll allow them to edit it. And this one makes sense. It can be a child of the list because that's where they're going to the list first and then editing a record. It can be a case edit URL. Deal with the same full page template. Leave it as published. Then this one we will show the edit form. Now that we show that, the localized content page, I do want to talk a little bit about that. So this first page that I created is the root page. It does create a localized content version, and basically this is how you deal with multiple languages. So you'll have a different localized content page for every language that you want in the web page. So it automatically created this one for me in English. So if I open this up, this is the web page that's actually shown in the portal. So if there's ever any issues, then you check this page because this is actually what's being displayed in the portal. And this is also where you see the designer HTML page. And this is everything that would be showing in the portal. And when this page is blank for now. And the last thing we can do is actually edit the navigation to make these pages easier to get to. And that's the web link sets on the left. And we'll see one called primary navigation. That's the navigation at the top right of my portal. If I go here and go to my links, I see exactly what was spun up with the basic portal. So on the top, see contact us, sample pages, the home, contact us, sample pages. So we can add a new one. Give it a name that we want to show up. Again, this will be published. This will be my list of cases that I want them to hit first. And then we can give it a number so it shows up in the right order. Save that. All right, so let's play with this a little bit in the portal side. I'll do a Control F5. Let's see if we can get this to update. And working with the portal, when you make changes in your CDS instance or in the app itself, there is some caching that occurs. So if it takes a minute to show up in the portal, it shouldn't take too long, usually a couple of minutes. Close that and go back in. And if it's taking too long, you can log in as an admin in the portal and reset the cache. Find my admin contact that can log in. I don't know the password that was spun up with, so we'll give it a new one. Very secure password. And then let's just find the username. So there's a special form that shows the web authentication details. Yeah, administrator. make sure they have administrator role. There we go. Okay, so if we sign in with an admin account, so as long as the contact has that administrator role, then they get this editor on the front side, which allows you to edit pages, similar to how you could do in CDS. You can just do it right here on this page. But it also means that they can access an area to clear the cache if it gets hung up like this. So we can do services/about. And then there's this clear cache page. So let's do that. And then we can go back and see if all of our items are updating. So you might have this issue the first time you spin one up. The more changes you make in CDS, the more pages and things you create, then generally the faster the caching gets or starts refreshing. But anytime you get stuck like that and you want to see it right away, then you can just clear the cache, save that URL. So now that I've updated, I see my cases along with the other pages since I didn't take them out. So if I click on this, we linked it to that list of cases. So I now see a case list, which is the title, the name I gave the page. And then I gave it 2 views. If you remember the views I gave it active and resolved. So I see those here. And all the data that's in my trial instance here, because I didn't secure this yet by turning on entity permission. So I just see everything. And then I can switch to resolved cases. So this is what it would be for your end users to access the data. But notice I can't click on anything. And if you remember, I did give it an edit page. So that's where I mentioned at the beginning, there's some metadata where you can kind of customize what certain buttons do and things like that. And on list pages, you actually have to tell it what you want it to update or where you want it to go when they click on it. So we jump back into our app here, go back to our list that we created. And then under options, we have this area for grid configuration. So this is where you can control what you want your customer or end user to be able to do on this list. So do I want them to be able to create a record? And maybe we want them to be able to see the details of the record. So when they create, I want to show them an entity form and give them the create form that we created. And I can also change the button label. If I don't like the defaults, we'll look at the defaults first. And then on the edit action or details, we created that web page, case edit, so I want to send them there. So this is where you can really fine tune what they can do and what buttons show up on that list. And you can see there's details, edit, delete, trigger a workflow, several things you can do here. Resolve case, reopen case, So since we're dealing with cases, those buttons show up. If you're dealing with accounts or contacts, you won't see those. So we'll add those, save it. And back here, let's see if it'll refresh for us without clearing the cache. Let's go ahead and force it. All right, now let's go back to our list view. We should see more buttons. All right, so now we've allowed a create action here, and notice these are now links that I can click on. And then when I click this, I can also view the details. So now we can start interacting with this data. So let's click on this case as an example. That'll take us to our other page that we created for the edit. So this particular form in CDS that I picked, just the information form, is showing it looks like an iframe of something in there. So I would need to go to CDS, create a new form, and remove this. So it's an example of, again, we need, as I recommended earlier, always create your new form specifically for the portal. But right below that, you'll see just a general case form. So case title, customer we're dealing with. Again, this is all out of the box for my trial instance. And this is just the form in CDS. So you could customize this just as you would in CDS as a normal form. Anything you've made read-only would be read-only. Required fields would be required, things like that. And then there's some extra items you have to configure, just like we did the buttons, if you want notes to show up and users to be able to interact with notes or documents. All right, so to sum it up, what we did here was basically spin up a new portal, just a new Power app with a portal type of app. Once that spins up, and again, remember the first time it'll take a couple of hours, and then anytime after that, once all the solutions are there, it'll take usually just 5 minutes. Then you get to a page like this, and then you can start customizing it. I always recommend doing it in the actual unified interface app, just because it has everything you need and it's a lot quicker. And what we did here was create an entity list to show a list of cases, and then created a couple of forms to allow the user to interact with the case. Give them an edit form and a create, and then we created a web page to show in the portal. And that first web page was that list of cases, case list, and the second one was the edit, so they could edit a case when they opened it. So as you can see, outside of the caching issue, which is, again, easy to clear, you just need admin credentials in the portal, which is just a contact. Outside of the caching issue, it's very easy to spin up a new portal, matter of minutes, generally speaking, and then create a web page just to show any type of data, any entity in CDS. And then you can interact with that entity as needed with the extra options on there, either to create, edit, run workflows, things like that. All right, Brittany, so that's it for the basics here. Next webinar, we can spend more time on security and things like that. All this extra items on the left navigation that you'll need. But that's it for now.
Perfect. Thank you, Tyler. And thank you everyone for spending a few minutes with us during this presentation. Again, this recording will be posted on the MCA Connect website, where you can reference it, share it with your colleagues if you choose. And thank you again, everyone, and we hope you all have a wonderful day.